I found the job on a forum, deep in one of those threads where people trade bizarre stories, conspiracy theories, and odd Craigslist finds. Night watch needed. Lake Dalton, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. for $100 per night. Bring your own flashlight. That was the full post. No name, no phone number. Just a location pin and a burner email. I wasn't exactly in a place to turn it down. I just dropped out of college, was sleeping on my friend Owen's couch, and my only source of income was DoorDash on a dying car battery. So I emailed. The reply came within minutes. You will be watching Lake Dalton from the boathouse. There are rules. You will be compensated in cash at the end of each shift. Reply yes if you agree. No further explanation, just a PDF attached. I opened it, expecting a contract or tax form. Instead, it was a list of rules. Lake Dalton Night Watch instructions. Arrive at 9:45 p.m. sharp. Do not be late. Never shine your flashlight on the lake. You may hear splashing or distant voices. Ignore them. Lock the boathouse door from the inside. Do not open it for anyone. At 2:11 a.m. exactly, when the red alarm clock on the table. You must not sleep. Not even a minute. If you hear footsteps on the roof, stay silent. I read the list 3 times. I wasn't sure if it was a prank or some kind of indie ARG, but $400 was $400. I replied, yes. That night, Owen laughed when I told him. Sounds like a cult. You better text me when you get back. I arrived at Lake Dalton a few minutes before 9:45 p.m. It was hidden about 20 miles out past Brenton, tucked in a forest preserve where the road turned to gravel and the air smelled like damp cedar. There were no other cars in the lot. The boathouse stood at the edge of the dock, an old weather-worn cabin with warped gray planks and a rusted tin roof. One single light bulb buzzed above the door. No one met me. No one checked ID. No cameras, no sign-in sheet. Just a folded envelope taped to the door. Shift 1. Welcome. Rules again enclosed. Don't forget the 2:11 clock. Inside the envelope was the same rule sheet, for $100 in 20s, and a red alarm clock, one of those wind-up ones with metal bells. I stepped into the boathouse and shut the door behind me. A heavy iron bolt slid across the frame from the inside. That was the only lock. Purple circle the boathouse. Inside, the space was bare. A chair, a table, a thermos labeled "Drink Me," and an old military-style flashlight. No heating, no Wi-Fi. Just a wide, rectangular window looking out across Lake Dalton, black and flat as obsidian. I sat, trying to get comfortable. The wooden chair creaked. Time passed slowly. At 10:17 p.m., I heard the first noise. A faint splash. Then another. I leaned toward the window. Nothing. The moon was rising behind the tree line, casting long shadows over the surface. Something about the water looked wrong. It wasn't just still, it looked compressed, like it was holding its breath. Then I remembered Rule 2. Never shine your flashlight on the lake. I gripped the flashlight anyway. My thumb hovered over the switch, but I didn't press it. Instead, I opened the thermos. Coffee. Still hot? I took a sip, strong and bitter, like it had been brewed by a soldier. I wasn't tired, not yet, but I was starting to feel watched. Purple circle midnight sounds. It was near midnight when the voices started. Faint. Almost like radio static. But not random. Whispers. Echoes. Somewhere far out on the water. I held my breath. The whispers didn't stop. I wanted to open the door, step outside. Just for a second. But Rule 4. Don't open it for anyone. I got up and checked the bolt again. Solid. Back at the table, I noticed something odd. The alarm clock. It had shifted slightly. I was sure I'd left it centered. Now it was angled toward the window. I turned it back. Purple circle 2:11 a.m. I watched the red digits on my phone until it struck exactly 2:11 a.m. I wound the clock. The click of the gears sounded louder than it should have. Immediately after, I heard it. Footsteps. Not outside. Above me. Heavy, deliberate. As if something was walking across the tin roof in slow circles. Each step came with a faint metallic creak. I froze. Rule 7. If you hear footsteps on the roof, stay silent. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. The steps circled once. Twice. Then stopped. The rest of the night passed in silence. I almost didn't go back. After that first shift, I sat in my car for a solid 10 minutes, clutching the envelope of cash, trying to convince myself it was just nerves. That the footsteps were animals. Or wind. But the money was real. The rules were real. And Owen's rent was due. So I went back the next night. Same time. Same place. But this time, there was something new waiting inside the envelope. You did well. Most don't come back. That was all it said, printed in blocky letters on a torn scrap of yellow legal pad. There was another $400 in cash. And the rules again, slightly different this time. Lake Dalton Night Watch Shift 2. The lake is always watching back. Be polite. You may hear your name whispered. Do not respond. At 2:11 a.m., wind the red clock. Stay inside the boathouse, no matter what you see outside. If the flashlight goes out, do not try to fix it. When you leave, walk backwards until you reach the parking lot. I laughed when I read that last part. Walk backwards? What kind of campfire bullshit was this? Still, I followed every word. Purple circle watching eyes. The second shift started off the same, still, quiet, uneasy. But there was a weight to the night now. The kind of pressure you feel during a thunderstorm before it breaks. My skin felt tight. My spine wouldn't relax. I sat in the same chair, tried the coffee. Still hot? Still bitter. At exactly 11:03 p.m., the window fogged up. Not from my breath. From the outside. A single word appeared in the condensation, as if a fingertip traced it from the other side. Hello. I jumped back. My flashlight clattered to the floor. I didn't shine it. I remembered Rule 1. Be polite. So I said, hello. Quiet. Calm. The fog faded. Purple circle voices and names. At midnight, the whispers came again. But this time, they were closer. Clearer. And they knew my name. Eric. Eric, come out. We're waiting. It was a woman's voice. Soft, pleading. Familiar in a way that made my stomach twist. My mom died when I was 10. She used to sing me to sleep with a low hum, the kind that vibrated in your chest. That's what this voice reminded me of. I closed my eyes and covered my ears. Eric, please. You can see me now. I didn't respond. Rule 2. I bit my lip until it bled. Eventually, the voice faded. Purple circle the window visitor. At 1:47 a.m., something passed by the window. Not walked. Glided. Its shape was human, but off, like a mannequin being dragged behind a boat. Limbs too stiff. Head tilted at an unnatural angle. It paused in front of the glass. Its face pressed to the window, leaving no fog, no breath. Just a white mask of skin and glassy eyes that stared through me. I froze. Then, slowly, it waved. I didn't wave back. I didn't move. Eventually, it drifted off into the night. Purple circle 2:11 a.m. Again. The red alarm clock ticked closer to the mark. I waited until 2:11 exactly, then wounded again. This time, the gears fought me. Like something inside didn't want to be turned. But I forced it. The moment the final click echoed out, the lights cut. Everything went black. And then the flashlight turned on by itself. It illuminated only the table, nothing more. But beyond the circle of light, I could hear them. Dozens of them. Breathing. Watching. The hairs on my neck stood up. Something shifted in the shadows. A scrape. A sigh. I sat perfectly still, gripping the sides of the chair. Purple circle exit rules. Eventually, the light flickered back to normal. The sun was close to rising. A faint blue tint seeped into the sky outside the window. I grabbed the flashlight, the alarm clock, and stuffed the new $400 into my coat. And then I opened the door. This time, I followed the last rule. I walked backwards. It was harder than I thought. The gravel slipped under my shoes. I felt like a toddler learning to walk again. Halfway to the parking lot, I heard it. Eric. Right behind me. Close. Real. But I didn't turn around. And when I reached the car, I found something pinned to my windshield. Another envelope. Inside. A new rule sheet. Another $400. And a Polaroid photo. The photo showed the boathouse. Only this time, someone was standing on the roof, looking down at me. I sat in my car outside the lake for 20 minutes before I went in. The photo hadn't left my mind. That figure on the roof, barely more than a shadow, but it was there, looking straight at the camera. Straight at me. The envelope hadn't come with a message this time. Just the new rule sheet, the cash, and a fresh clock. The old one had gone dead sometime after 4 a.m., its hands locked in place. Lake Dalton Night Watch, Shift 3. Do not speak aloud after midnight. You may see things moving underwater. Do not approach the window. Someone may knock. Do not answer. If you hear the same sound twice, the third one is not real. Wind the clock before 2:11 tonight. Do not look at the photo again. Burn it. The lake has moods. Tonight, it is angry. That last line did it for me. The lake has moods? What was this performance art? But something deeper, more primal in me, believed it. And I knew, even before I stepped out of the car, that this night was going to be worse. Purple circle, the fog comes in. By the time I reached the boathouse, the lake was already different. A thick mist blanketed the surface, dense enough that the trees across the water were just gray smudges. The moon hung low, orange and fat like a warning light. Inside, the air felt heavier, more humid. The flashlight flickered the moment I picked it up. I tapped it, and it steadied. But I didn't like the way it buzzed. I wound the clock early, 1:53 a.m., just to be safe. The mechanism still resisted, but I pushed it until it clicked. Then I waited. Purple circle, the knocking. At 12:07 a.m., I heard the first knock. 3 sharp raps on the wooden door behind me. I didn't move, didn't speak. But then, "Hey, man, it's Owen. You forgot your phone charger. Open up." My blood turned ice. It was his voice, perfectly mimicked. Same rhythm, same slang. "Come on, man. It's freezing out here." He knocked again, this time slower, more deliberate. Boom, boom, boom. I clenched my jaw, didn't breathe. The door handle jiggled, just once, and then fell still. I didn't move for over 10 minutes. Purple circle under the water. By 1:20 a.m., I started seeing them. Shapes beneath the waterline, moving, circling, close to the dock. Slippery, you like. But longer, thicker, more deliberate. They didn't ripple the surface. They just swam beneath it, as if the lake were glass and they were trapped under it. One of them turned upward. For a moment, I swear it had a face. A mouth. Open wide. Too wide. I dropped the curtain on the window and stepped back. My stomach turned. I didn't want to know what happened if I stared too long. Purple circle, the third sound. At 1:58 a.m., I heard a woman crying. Then silence. At 2:03, a man's laugh echoed outside the window. Then silence. At 2:07, something hissed inside the room. Not outside. Inside. I turned slowly and saw a line of water snaking in from beneath the back wall. It curved like a question mark, then vanished. No trace. Just wet footprints in its wake, leading up the far wall, where there was no door. Purple circle, 2:11 a.m. Though I'd wound the clock already, it gave a tiny ding when the hands passed 2:11. And with it, the air changed. The flashlight sputtered. The bulb popped. Darkness. I heard breathing again. But this time not one. Dozens. Inhales. Slow. Wet. Like lungs that had forgotten how to breathe properly. Something brushed past my leg. I didn't flinch. Another knock on the door. "Please," someone whispered. "Just let me in. Just for a second. I'm so cold." I buried my face in my coat and waited. Minutes dragged. Then, a loud snap. Like a branch breaking just outside. I opened my eyes. Purple circle, dawn warning. The flashlight sparked back to life around 5 a.m. Faint light crept into the sky. The fog was lifting. I stood, legs shaking, and unbolted the door. I walked backwards again, one careful step at a time. The air behind me was silent, but I knew better than to trust silence now. When I reached the car, a new envelope was there. Inside, for $100, another rule sheet. A napkin from a diner, scrawled in pen. "Don't do shift 4. I looked back once at the lake, and for a second, it looked like it had risen. Higher than before. Like it was watching me too. I almost didn't go. I reread that napkin a dozen times. "Don't do shift 4. Who wrote it? Was it a warning from someone like me, another night watch? Someone who didn't follow the rules? But $400 is hard to ignore when you're broke. And I needed answers. That evening, I drove to Lake Dalton again. The air was still. Too still. Like the forest was holding its breath. Purple circle, the new rules. The envelope on the boathouse door was heavier than before. Inside, I found, for $100, a fresh clock. Another set of rules, handwritten this time in frantic, jagged lettering. Lake Dalton Night Watch Shift 4. Do not enter the boathouse if the door is open. If the door is closed, lock it behind you. You may not be alone inside. The lake may speak tonight. Do not listen. If your name is spoken 3 times, cover your ears. When the clock at 2:11, only if the ticking is stopped. The figure on the roof may drop down. Do not acknowledge it. Do not bring anything out with you that wasn't yours. The last line chilled me. I checked my coat pockets. Empty except for keys and wallet. No photo. No napkin. Just me. And the boathouse door was closed. I stepped in and bolted it behind me. Purple circle the other watcher. Something felt off immediately. The chair had moved. It now faced the window directly, and beside it, a second chair, one that hadn't been there before. I scanned the room. Nobody. No signs of life. No footsteps. No breath. But the thermos had already been opened. Steam still rose from it. And beside it, a note. We watched together tonight. It wasn't my handwriting. Purple circle reflections. Around 10:30 p.m., the lake shimmered. Not with moonlight. With reflections. Dozens of them. Moving across the surface, like people, but only half there. Some pacing. Some standing. Some pointing at me. I pulled the curtain again. But their shadows still flickered across the walls. Like the lake was casting images inside. One of them stopped. It raised a hand, pressed it against the inside of the window. Even with the curtain drawn, I could feel it. The cold through the glass. I whispered, "What do you want?" And immediately, I regretted it. Purple circle the whisper game. At 12:42 a.m., I heard my name. Once. Twice. Eric. I stuffed my ears with tissue from my pocket. The third time came like thunder, a scream pressed through cotton and bone. Eric. The bulb in the ceiling exploded. The flashlight blinked erratically. The clock had stopped ticking. But I couldn't move. I couldn't hear anything but the ringing that followed the name. Then came the scrape. Something dragged itself across the roof, claws or nails or metal. And then, a thump. Right outside the door. Purple circle what got in. The air in the boathouse turned thick. Wet. The smell of the lake seeped through the walls. Rotten wood. Mold. Blood. A slow creak behind me, the second chair was no longer empty. Something sat in it. I refused to look. I stared at the clock, which had started ticking again all on its own. Eric, it said. The thing in the chair had my voice, but warped like it had been run through water. I squeezed my eyes shut. You shouldn't be here. I wound the clock at 2:11 without turning my head. The moment I did, the air snapped. The sound stopped. When I opened my eyes, the other chair was empty again. Purple circle the wrong exit. The sky was already graying with dawn. I grabbed my coat, unlocked the door. But when I stepped outside, something was wrong. I forgot to walk backwards. The gravel under my feet crunched loud. Too loud. I turned, instinctively, and that's when I saw it. The lake was closer. The waterline now covered the first 2 steps of the boathouse. And someone was standing in the lake. A silhouette. Still. Motionless. Watching me. I backed away, slowly, eyes locked on the figure. When I reached the car, there was no envelope. No cash. No new rules. Just a note, pinned under the wiper blade. 1 shift left. If you return, it chooses. I don't remember driving home after the 4th shift. I just remember sitting in my bathtub fully clothed, water running, my fingers wrinkled like I'd been in there for hours. The note on the windshield haunted me. If you return, it chooses. Choose what? I didn't want to know. And yet, I showed up again the next night. Not for the money. Not even for the answers. I just needed to see if the lake would remember me. Purple circle no envelope. This time, there was no envelope on the door. No cash. No instructions. Just the door, wide open. According to the previous rule, that meant I shouldn't go in. But I did, because something inside me already knew. This wasn't a shift. It was an ending. Purple circle the boathouse changed. The room inside was no longer the same. No table. No flashlight. No thermos. Just the 2 chairs facing the window, and the window itself, now open. Cold air drifted in from the lake, thick with the scent of algae and wet stone. I stood there, waiting for the rules. But there were none. Only a figure, slowly rising from the lake, silhouetted in the moonlight. It looked like me. Purple circle the other Eric. The thing climbed onto the dock. No sound. No splash. It wore my face, but its skin shimmered too smooth, like it had been sculpted out of wax. The eyes were glassy, milky white. It stepped through the open window without resistance. And then it sat in the second chair beside me. We didn't speak. We didn't move. We just sat there together, looking out at the lake, like we had always done. Until it whispered, "You're tired. Let me take the next one." I stood, heart pounding. "No," I said. Its face didn't change. But the light behind its eyes flickered, briefly like something swimming just beneath the surface. Purple circle the choice. Outside, the lake was boiling. Steam curled upward in unnatural swirls. Dozens of shapes moved below the surface now circling, pressing toward the shore. Faces rose and sank, bloated and staring, open mouths mouthing things I couldn't hear. And from the shadows around the boathouse, others began to step out. Watchers. Some with my face. Some with Owen's. Some with no face at all. Each stood in silence. Each held an envelope in their hand. One stepped forward. A tall woman with stringy gray hair and black eyes. She offered me an envelope. I took it. Inside. Final shift. The lake is always watching. Tonight, it chooses. Purple circle the clock without hands. The alarm clock on the floor had no hands. It ticked anyway. I tried to wind it, but the knob spun endlessly, like a wheel with no friction. The other Eric stood now, his eyes locked on mine. I'll stay, he said. You've done enough. I should have run. I should have screamed. But something about him felt honest. Like I really could walk away. Purple circle leaving the boathouse. I stepped toward the door. No one blocked me. The shadows simply watched. The copies. The lake. All of it. Still. I walked out, turned around, and for the first time, I didn't walk backwards. I didn't look over my shoulder either. I just kept walking. And when I reached my car, I opened the trunk and found an envelope waiting for me. Inside, $800. No rules. And a photo. This time, it was of the boathouse from a distance. In the window, two silhouettes sat side by side. Purple circle the new posting. That was 3 weeks ago. I haven't gone back since. But I still check the forum every night, out of habit. Last night, I saw it again. A new post. Night watch needed. Lake Dalton, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., $400 per night. Bring your own flashlight. Same wording, same pin. But this time, there was a picture attached. It was me, sitting in the chair by the window, smiling.